Hello and welcome back to ThoughtBot's AI in Focus. I'm your host, Chad Pytel. I'm developer and CEO and founder of ThoughtBot. Today, we are going to be bringing up a real flaky spec that we've been ignoring on our CI server for months, and we are going to fix it. What we're going to do today is we're going to actually fix it manually without the use of AI or any agent or anything like that first. So that way we can get my solution down and we know that it is fixable and how we would normally fix it. And then we'll go we'll bring up Copilot and we will do the fix, trying to do the fix anyway in agent mode. Before we all do that, though, we are going to look at the flaky spec, talk about where it comes from, and then before we go and we start solving it ourselves, I'm actually going to assign the GitHub issue to GitHub Copilot on GitHub, which is a new feature. If you haven't seen it yet, you can assign an issue to Copilot, and it will start to solve the problem on GitHub, not on your local computer. I haven't used it yet. It might fail horribly. I don't know. We'll try it out and we'll see together. So let's take a look at what the failing spec is. We use, on this application, we use Circle CI. We actually, on projects, use a variety of different CI tools. Sometimes we use GitHub Actions. Otherwise, Circle CI is most common. And then clients might have something that they're already using as well. Speaking of clients, we at ThoughtBot, we help people create new applications or build and improve their existing ones. A lot of the work we do is Rails, but we do amazing mobile development and design as well. And we work with some other things that are not Rails along the way. So if you need any help with your application or you're looking to do something new, don't hesitate to get in touch. Okay, so if you haven't used Circle CI before, or maybe you do and haven't seen this under Insights, what they've started to do is they can flag specs that they notice as flaky. And then you can drill into them and see what it is. So you can see here we have 5 specs that are identified as flaky. The one we're going to work on now is this first one. I don't know why. Personally, I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. I don't know when this counter resets. But these 5 are consistently inconsistent and fail every once in a while, unrelated to any changes made in the application. So let's drill in, and we can see the failure. Actually, in this run, there's another flaky spec failing as well. And what is failing is it expects to have content land in C, and expected to find text land in C and here's the body text. And you can see what's actually happening is C and land. So the order of those two things on the page is flip-flopping from what the specs expect it to be. And so therefore it's failing. So that's a pretty common failure in terms of flaky specs, where you expect the order to be one thing, but it's actually indeterminate and it's in the opposite order. So that's cool. So we've got a GitHub issue over here that we've created for this flaky spec. And like I said, we're going to work on fixing it ourselves without any use of AI or agent, and then we're going to do it again with an agent. But in the meantime, I'm going to assign this ticket to maybe I could do that. I thought we could assign tickets to Copilot. It's unfortunate if oh, by the way, I am looking at the chat, so as I work here, if you got any questions about what I'm working on, or you have help along the way, or you just have a random question about anything, feel free to drop it in the chat and I will see it there. Okay. So let's see why. So my understanding, I guess, this is proof that I really do things live on the show. My understanding was that I would just be able to assign the ticket to Copilot. But I didn't know, I guess, I don't know if there's some setup that needs to be done or something like that. Let's just do a quick search. Okay. Apparently it is a paid feature. You can assign a GitHub issue to Copilot. Sign up for Copilot. Let's see. Okay. Well, that was a good idea, but I'm not not going to do this live. Actually, okay, what was it? Copilot Pro Plus, Copilot Enterprise. Let's see, as long as I don't need to enter in credit card details live on. I don't know if it's going to personal account for businesses, business, enterprise. Okay. I'm worried it's going to add it for everybody on our Thoughtbot.org. So let's not do that. Sorry, folks. Sorry to get your hopes up on that working in the background. Okay, so let's go over and just work on this flaky spec without any use of an agent. So I can see we're creating a team called land, a team called C. This page is a index page with a list of a bunch of things on it. And it has filtering functionality. So what's actually happening here is where the teams being set are land and C. The team being set on this one is just C. And then we expect the page when we go to it to have land and C on it. Oh, it actually doesn't have to do with filtering at all. I thought it did. It's just that the teams on this one are land and C. I'm noticing as I did, this is a poorly last upcoming. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So it's just checking that this one only has C on it and this one only has or has land and C, and the order land and C. So this relationship here isn't guaranteed to be in the same order. So as I'm looking at this spec, I see two possible ways of addressing the flaky spec. One would be to change the code so that the order, the actual code in our view or model, depending on where it is, so that the order is determinate. The other way would be to write our spec to be more resilient. Now, in general, I would say for a flaky spec, would always prefer, when possible, to modify the spec rather than the code. And I think in this case, that's how I'm feeling about this as well. Because if we go over to, let's actually go over to our view and see what's going on. So this is the dashboard, upcoming opportunities. Okay, let's go dashboard, show, opportunities. Okay, dashboard, opportunities. You can see there's a team column. It's the formatted teams helper. Let's find out where that is. Okay, so what that's doing is it's taking the opportunities primary team, any additional teams, putting them in an array, removing any nils, making sure it's unique, and then making a link to each one. So if we were going to take the tack of modifying the code, then we could sort this array and maybe do it alphabetically, right? But now that I look at that, I think I doubly don't want to modify the code because there's a purpose behind this, the way this is implemented, and that is to make the primary team first, add any additional teams, and then deduplicate them, is to make the primary team first. That's an interesting discovery that's intentional, and it points to an entirely different solution in our specs, which is we're not setting a primary team on this spec. And so that is actually why the order is more is the root cause of why the order's not thing. I forgot to cover one thing. So how do we replicate this flaky spec locally? And this doesn't always work, but in general, we run our specs with a random seed, which determines the order that they run in. And a lot of times, if you run your specs locally with that same seed, you're going to be able to replicate the failure. So let's give that a try. And so if we can, before we begin implementing a fix, and the seed is going to be down at the end of the spec run. So it's 7221. So hopefully I'm going to run this spec with this seed and it's going to fail. Okay, it passed. But if we run it a few times, okay, it's not failing now, which is unfortunate. Let's run it with a different seed, see if it fails, or just with a random seed. I want to just try so from that, I'm going to just run it 10 times, see if we can get a failure. Actually, let's do 20 times. This is exciting. So the honest truth is I actually did run this right before I started and it failed locally. So I'm surprised that it's not failing at all now. I didn't already fix the problem. Oh man, it's going to run 20 times and not fail. Oh, that's funny. Okay, that's a little frustrating, but it is what it is. Let's so we want land to be first, so it should be the primary team. This one, it doesn't matter, so let's just leave it the way that it is. Let's run the spec to make sure that it still passes. Okay, cool. Oh. Okay, fix flaky opportunities on dashboard spec. What was our issue here? 8232. Sets primary team, which will be sorted first, ensuring the order. Okay, so we've got Let's open a pull request because I want the specs to run on CI. So here's our pull request, and the specs are starting to run now. Okay, so now let's go back to main, which doesn't have our fix. Let's clear everything out. So we're going to use Copilot. We'll try it in Copilot. We'll try it in Copilot with GPT. Let's do 4.1, and then we'll go over to Cursor if there's time and try the same thing there. And there we'll use Claude. So let's give this a try. I always forget. Okay, new chat. We're in full agent mode here. Okay, and I'm just going to I'm going to add the context of this dashboard show, and then the opportunities partial, and then where was the helper? Opportunities helper. Cool. All right, let's see what happens. So it immediately identifies the flakiness is due to the order of team names in the rendered output. The spec expects lands in C, but sometimes C and land appears. This is because the teams are not ordered deterministically. Solution: sort the team names in the formatted teams helper so that the output is always in a consistent order. All updated formatted teams. So what I want to see, it's doing that, and it's now sorting the teams by name alphabetically. That's exactly what I said we could potentially do. So, but it's not. It's then removing the behavior that we have now of the primary team always being first. So I'm curious whether we have a spec for that behavior. So I bet you we don't, just because it seems like the sort of thing where it might have been taken for granted. But let's see. Specs helper opportunity. Yeah, there's not any specs directly for the helper. So if anything, it would have been being tested sort of organically, which is exactly what this spec was doing. It was making sure land was first as a byproduct of being an expected order. And now what we've done is we've put that there. So I don't want to get distracted, but I also feel like it is important to have behavior that we would want to preserve tested. And so let's just let's see what happens if we tell Copilot that actually the order, this is the same process we went through. We said, well, we could sort it so actually the existing functionality specifically built the array so that the primary team was first. Let's preserve that. Can we fix this problem by modifying the spec? instead of the code. Okay, so it says, yes, you can fix the flaky spec by making the test accept either land or C and land as valid output, since the order is not guaranteed and both are in this context. The best way is to use a regular expression or match that allows for both orderings in your expectation. I will update the spec so that it passes either land and C or C and land. I'll update the relevant expectation in your spec. So let's go over and see what it actually did. Yeah. So in terms of a naive thing, this could be, the flaky specs are taking your time. Maybe this is good enough to solve the problem. Let's talk about what I would do instead of writing if I wanted to go this route, what I would do instead of writing a regular expression. Dashboard. So if I wanted to go that direction, what I would do is I would pull out the text land and C and like split on and then assert that it has the right elements in the array. That's what I would do if I really wanted to go that direction. Okay, let's write a new spec for the opportunities helper. And we didn't do this before, but now I'm going to do it. Okay, so actually, let's introduce a new helper spec to ensure that the primary team is always first from formatted teams. Okay, so it created the file because we didn't have one before. A new helper spec was added to ensure you can now run your spec. Okay, so it's running the spec and it passed. Okay, let's look at the actual spec. It used build stubbed, primary, secondary, opportunity team, primary. Then it specifically put, I like the comment, intentionally out of order. Cool, extract the text. So it's using a regular expression here as well. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. Yeah, Andy, sorry I missed your comment at the time, but what if you run the whole spec? Thanks for the suggestion. It is, it's possible that matters, but I also, before I started streaming, I ran the spec locally with that seed, and it did fail just that one spec. So, yeah, so I was expecting it to fail at some point just for the one spec. I like how this it wrote the spec to use build stubbed automatically, which is great, and it used the opportunity as a double format, so we're not even creating a stubbed opportunity here. That's a good way to do that. I like this. And now we've got a spec that explicitly um, checks the behavior that we expect from that helper. So that's nice. And I also realize that part of the reason why leaving this as a regular expression, just searching for the order of that text makes a lot of sense, is because if we look at the helper, it's actually using a link to there, so it's actually outputting quite a bit of markup, and it's going to be those links in the HTML as well. So using just this regular expression like this ignores all of that other markup and just make sure primary comes before secondary. So that's a good way to handle that, I think. Let's go over to, this is a good spec. Let's go over to our branch. Oh, actually, let's go see whether we're passing on CI here. Yeah, so our manual change that we made before passes on CI, which is great. Okay, let's commit this. Or let's just add it to our existing branch with, or our existing commit with commit amend. So that's going to run the specs again, which is fine. Okay, so let's go back to main. And let's bring up cursor. Okay. Okay, so we've got cursor up. Let me just adjust the screen here. Cool. Oh, I'm going to let it update just so we have the full thing. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So agent mode, okay. Well, we said we were going to use Claude, so let's keep it on Claude, Sonnet. And so not only have we changed editor now, we've also changed the model that we're using. Okay, I can see this as a flaky spec, flaky test where the expected text land in C is appearing as C in land instead, suggesting an ordering issue. Let me investigate the test file and related code to understand. Oh, I didn't give it the context files like I did Copilot. So, but it looks like it's grepping the code base to try to find it. Now I need to find the formatted teams helper. So it's doing it on its own. and it's doing exactly what I did when I searched for def formatted teams. There are two different methods to handle team names in different ways. Formatted teams helper uses opportunity team, which outputs primary team first, then adds other teams in whatever order they come from the database. The issue is that the tester is relying on formatted teams helper, but the teams are being ordered inconsistently because the primary team is put first, then the other teams follow. The order of opportunity teams is not guaranteed. The test expects lands in C, but gets C and land when the teams come back. Let me check if there's a way to verify which team is being set as the primary team in the test. Let me check the opportunity factory to see how teams are being assigned. Now I understand the full picture. The issue is in the formatted teams helper method. Let me look in the set initial teams method to see how primary team. Perfect. Now I can see the issue clearly. At line 504, the set initial teams method sets primary team to teams.first, which means the primary team is set to the first team in the unordered collection. The primary team is set to the first team in the unordered collection. This creates the flaky behavior. In the test, teams are created with names land and C and assigned to the opportunity. The formatted teams helper puts primary team first. The primary team is set to teams first. Sometimes land. Oh, I see what it's saying. Solution. Fix the helper to use consistent ordering, recommended. Fix the test to not depend on specific ordering. Fix the model to set primary team deterministically. I'll fix the helper method to use consistent alphabetical ordering like team's name method does. Okay. So it was a lot better at diagnosing the problem. But at the end of the day, it ended up doing the same solution, which was to sort the helper and not preserve the behavior of primary teams. Primary team being first. So let's let it make that change and run the spec. Yeah. Okay. The test is now passing. Let me run it a few more times with different seeds to make sure it's no longer flaky. That's a pretty good practice. I'm not sure what would actually matter in this case. Okay. So here's what I'm thinking now. So we let it... So we let it I forgot what file. Yeah, okay, opportunity. So we let it make the change, and now the order is not preserved. I'm going to reject that change. Okay. Let's do the same thing. The order of primary team being displayed first is important. Let's write a new helper spec to ensure that the primary team always comes first. So let's see whether it arrives at a good solution like Copilot did. So I don't see an opportunities helper spec file, so I'll create one. It's taking a little while. Okay. Oh, it went right to running the spec to make sure that it worked. Oh, now it's automatically going back to address the flaky spec. This is what I was hoping would happen, which was once we told it the behavior that primary team was first, should be first, it would arrive at the same solution that we did manually. And that's exactly what just happened. So that's cool. And now it's running again. So cool. So what's the takeaway here from that? Does anybody have any thoughts? Cool. Actually, I just like it. So it had modified the spec helper to require path name, but it realizes that that's not important for the spec. Okay. So with Copilot, with Cursor and Claude, and then us realizing that there was no spec for that behavior, we got the agent to arrive at the same solution that we did. I guess the takeaway here is specs are good because having that spec for that behavior when it was not explicit before was information that then the model, the agent was able to take into account to arrive at the correct solution. Okay. So this change set is exactly what we have on our branch now. So we don't need, I'm just gonna reset. Okay, let's go over to our pull requests, make sure everything's passing, everything is. So we have a new file. Okay. What's going on here? Git check. Oh, I copied and pasted something else. Okay. Let's merge this in to main. And we're pushing to main live on the show. Let's delete the branch. Okay. So awesome. We made good progress on that. It took actually a lot like longer because we did it 3 times. And you know, we wanted to get the fix right. So we added an additional spec for the behavior that was untested. But we're making good time. Let's pick another flaky spec from our build. So here's another one, this Summit presenter spec. Actually, see if it shows up here. Yeah. Yep. Okay, so let's start in Copilot this time. Sorry, I keep on saying Copilot because I'm using both today, but I meant Cursor. Let's start in Cursor this time. Okay. I'm going to close the current tabs. Okay. So this time we're jumping right to the agent. We're not checking it first and doing it manually first. And I'm doing that intentionally so that we can, go ahead and see what what ride it takes us on. Okay, so I can see that this is a flaky spec test where the order of events in the schedule is inconsistent. The test expects first event and second event to be in a specific order, but they're coming back in the reverse order. Let me examine the test file and presenter to fix this issue. Now I can see the issue. Looking at the Summit presenter schedule method, order by start time, group by start time. The problem is the query only orders by start time, but when multiple events have the same start time, their order within that group is not deterministic. The test expects first event and second event to be in a specific order, but since they have the same start time, is that true? Let's bring up the spec here. Line 31. Start time of 11, start time of 10. Yeah, that didn't ring true to me. So that's interesting. Start time. Looking at the failing test more carefully, both events have the same start time. 10 and 10. Where is it getting that from? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong spec. So on this spec, no, this is the right spec. So what it's done to fix the problem is add a secondary sort to fix the problem. But my the it's really funny. This is really funny. Okay. I'm gonna stop it. I'm surprised that it's getting this wrong because it's right there. It's taking the text from right there. But that just goes to show what you need to be careful of. I'm glad I caught that. Um, let's I'm going to reset. I'm going to go up to the prompt. let's go over to Copilot. And let's see what happens. Okay. Again, we're not giving it any order. Here's our spec. Oh, look at that. They are 10 and 10. See, the problem, okay, that's interesting. The issue is I have the editor blown up here so much. I was looking at these two and thinking that that was that, but there was another one up there with the same time. So it was right. That's funny. Here we were, we thought it was hallucinating, and instead it was just scrolled off the top of the editor because I was zoomed in so much. Let's check in on Copilot to see what it did. Flaky spec is caused the fact that the order of events with the same start time is not guaranteed. So the array, so Copilot also found the exact problem. To fix this, update the spec to compare the arrays as sets, order independent, or sort the arrays before comparison. This will make the test deterministic and not flaky. Would you like me to update the spec to compare the arrays as sets or sort them before comparison? I'm interested in compare the arrays as sets. Compare the arrays as sets. So what it's doing there is it changed it to match array for the keys. So that's going to check that the order of the times is correct. And well, Antonio, I see you said Microsoft owns GitHub. Only reason why I haven't gambled with Claude yet. The interesting thing is that now, if you're using Copilot, you can change the model to Claude Sonnet 4. So you could use the same model that's in within GitHub within Copilot, but use the model that Cursor uses by default. So you can sort of use your editor that you want. Now, obviously, the agent for both of those things is different. So using the same model isn't necessarily the only thing. Okay. Okay. So it's calling toSet and toSet. I'm going to undo this. I don't like that. Let's do let's sort them before. Match array. Okay, so then it's comparing the IDs by the ID. So I just told it to run the specs. Okay, so okay, I'm going to keep this change. Okay, now I'm looking at this and I'm saying, can we, there's a lot sort of going on here with the sorting and everything. I could see a few different ways of cleaning this up, but I'm just going to ask Copilot. We clean up this spec to avoid vacation. Can we clean up this spec to make what I'm really doing here, make the lines shorter, the expectation lines shorter. Yeah, Robert. Robert says, I found that with the details of what is actually in the code, the AI agents are usually correct, and I'm overlooking something. True, which is exactly what just happened to us. So what's it contain exactly? While remaining order independent. Is that actually going to do that? Cool. We'll keep that. And then one more change. Can we not duplicate the time.parse calls? Now, I would just, to be perfectly honest, I would just do this by hand. So the reason why I'm asking the agent to run the specs, for what it's worth, is that by having the agent run the specs, it's watching the output. So it knows whether it passed or failed or not and takes that in to context. And if it fails, it'll start to work on the fix. So the spec ran successfully with no failures. Okay, we're going to keep the change. We're going to look at how this actually does. Okay, so so you can see how we could use those. So use time AM and time 11 AM as variables throughout the spec. So now I'm getting really picky here, but so we move those up and then use them throughout the spec. I'm just having it run the spec again. Cool. Okay. I feel pretty good about that fix. So we've got that. We will. Why is the what opportunities helper spec? Oh, I see. I'm just going to remove that file. Oh, it got deleted. Let me commit the spec that. Fix flaky summit event ordering spec. Oh. Oh, this one wasn't identified as a existing GitHub issue. So this the order of events was events with the same start time was not determinate. This fixes the spec by not checking for a specific order for events with the same. I'm just going to push up that change so it's in the branch, and then I'm going to get there. That fixed the fact that I had accidentally deleted that file because I thought it wasn't there in this branch. Cool. Let's tackle one more. Let's tackle one more. Actually, let's go over here to Circle CI and make sure we're up to date on any flaky specs. So looks like this one's pretty flaky. And this looks to be a little bit of a different problem. So let's, instead of just jumping right to the agent this time, let's actually look at the spec. Okay, so this is a spec for a background job. The spec is it queues up a job for each valid opportunity. It expects that to be called when the job is run. It expects to have enqueued job with opportunity 1 and enqueued job with opportunity 2. And it expects that to be 2. So what this spec is testing is that because we created 4 opportunities, but we only want the job to run on 2 of them. And so now what is the actual failure that's happening here? Expecting to enqueue exactly 1 job with opportunity 43, queued jobs opportunity 42 and 44. That's interesting. I want to run this spec and see. Okay. And then as we did before, we'll try it with the seed. Okay. So I don't see what the actual cause of the failure is. Does expecting to enqueue exactly 1 job with opportunity, but enqueued 0. Queued jobs 42 and 44. So let's look at the code to see whether we can get a sense. So we're solving it manually now. Then we'll go over to the agent and see if it arrives at the same solution. So I'm thinking this might actually be an order thing too. If this, and I'm wondering if anybody in the chat or watching knows, when you say expect this to have in queued job and have in queued job with another opportunity, is the order there, is that also expecting the order of those two things? And if that's the case, then that's probably the root cause. I just don't know off the top of my head if that syntax is going to be the order. I bet that that's the case. Robert says, ask Copilot. Let's do it. Let's see. Here, we don't need to be in agent mode. We can just be in ask mode. So add, it automatically adds the context. So does a chained have in queued job also check for the order of those jobs? No, chaining have in queued job matchers in our spec does not guarantee the order of the in-queued jobs. The chain matchers only check that all specified jobs have been in-queued. If you want to assert the order of in-queued jobs, you need to inspect the queued jobs array. Cool. So that answers that question. Thanks for the suggestion. Antonio says it looks messy. Your perspective as a junior is very much appreciated. It doesn't matter your experience level. I agree that there's something about this which, there's a lot going on here. That if you don't have context for that, you might be like, what is going on? And the fact that these queries are so there's a few things that I would point out as could be improved here. This SQL being specific here in this job explicit here is probably not ideal. And then I can see, if I sort of slow down and take a look, I can see that this must have to do with rate limiting. And what it's doing is it's making sure that there's only a certain number of these requests per group, per hour, per day. So this is hitting an external service, and there is things are being put into a schedule. So it's queuing the job with a weight of that offset. So depending on the number of things queued up, I'm wondering. So we still haven't identified the actual issue yet. It queues up a job for each valid opportunity. And the failure is the failure is okay. I don't see it. We're moving pretty quickly here, so I don't know if anybody in the chat sees it either. But I think now, especially since we're coming up on time here, let's switch it back to agent mode. and see if in the last 15 minutes or so we can get it. So we'll get our failure here. We have a flaky spec. Let's fix it. The flaky spec is because it assumes the order and identity of the created opportunities will match the jobs in queued, but the actual jobs are in queued with the first 2 valid opportunities found in the database, which may not always be the same records as the local variables due to non-deterministic ordering of create and db auto increment IDs. How to fix. Instead of matching object by identity, match by attributes that define a valid opportunity. For example, Freshworks account ID and domain. You can do this by checking the enqueued jobs arguments for the expected attributes. Let's update the spec to check that the correct jobs are enqueued for the correct Freshworks account ID, regardless of the specific record objects. This is interesting. I have no idea whether this is actually the problem or not. The test is still failing. Yeah. So it's setting Freshworks account ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This does not seem correct to me. I'll run the specs one more time with this fix, but the test is showing that the jobs are being queued with the correct Freshworks values 1, 2, 3. The failure is due to the matcher expecting the jobs to be queued with an opportunity object having yeah, it's let's run this spec. It's not going to pass, I don't think. Yeah. Okay, so it didn't know the problem, just like we didn't know the source of the failure. I'm going to undo everything, and it didn't get on the right track there. Okay. So this concept of valid here is a little bit of a red herring because valid doesn't mean a valid active record. So let's move for each opportunity that needs enrichment. So then if we go over to the code, we can see what things need enrichment are contacts where they have a Freshworks contact ID. I just noticed this is Freshworks contact ID, but the specs are all setting Freshworks account ID. That seems very wrong to me. Creating an opportunity, re-enrichment. So this is working with context, not, oh, I accidentally loaded the wrong class. Hold on, let's go to the right one. Opportunity job. Here's the one that's opportunities. Okay. Freshworks account ID is not nil, not spam. It has a domain name, and it has been enriched. Default of 3 months. Yeah, so that's 3 months. So we're enriched on is null or it's less than. And distinct on that and limit per day. Does this seem weird to anybody else? Enriched on less. I always get I can confuse myself with dates and less than or greater than. Yeah, less than means further than 3 months ago because that's a smaller date than a newer date. Okay, I turned myself around for a second there. So we have opportunity 1 and opportunity 2. They have a domain, Freshworks account ID, and they were enriched 4 months ago. So those to me, domain, they're not spam. It's not explicitly being set there, as, but the factory is gonna do that. Okay. And then it creates one with a domain, account, and enriched. Oh, I bet that's the problem. Okay. So this creates one that has the same Freshworks ID and duplicates are being removed. But there's no guarantee that the one that gets removed is this one. It could be the one that we're expecting. And I think we just found the source of the flaky spec. If the distinct on removes the one we're not expecting, the one we are not expecting is going to be enqueued, gets enqueued. I'm pretty sure that's the problem. So, given that that is the problem, there are, so, once again, I would prefer to fix the spec rather than change the code to fix flaky specs. The problem is that if the thing that's getting enriched is this one. To fix the spec, we would need to say either of those. We would need to say like having queued job with either of those. I don't even know how to do that. We can instead look at the in queued jobs, and we could do the array. Yeah, that's tricky. Anyone have a suggestion for how to write that? I think we could do the enqueued jobs as an array, and we could say, okay, we definitely expected to have the first one, but the second one would either be this one or another one. So Copilot actually was on the wrong track, but the solution it was going on could be a potential thing. What it was suggesting was don't compare the opportunities, compare the account IDs. And I like that. Let's look at what the output of enqueued jobs is. Because I actually don't know what that actually looks like. Okay, so it is and the reason why what Copilot was doing is failing is because there are some other jobs getting in queued. When you create objects, there's a callback that indexes them in Elasticsearch. And so when it was saying, give me the first two jobs, it was constantly coming back as nil for the Freshworks account ID. And that's the reason why. I want to go back and look at that Copilot output because maybe it wasn't on the wrong track. Instead of matching the flaky spec is because it assumes the order and identity of the created opportunities will always match the jobs in queued. But the actual jobs are in queued with the first two valid opportunities found in the database, which may not always be the same records as the local variables. Non-deterministic ordering of the create and DB auto increment IDs. Actually, it's pretty close to the reason why. It's pretty close to the reason why there. I'm gonna take this code because I'm going to use it as the basis for what we're going to do. I don't know how to. Okay. So if instead, I didn't paste. So rejecting all the jobs that are not for the ones we're caring about here. So thanks. Antonio asks, are AI tools required at Thoughtbot? No, they're not required. People are free to use whatever tools you want. We've had that case. We were big in Vim in the old days. There were companies that mandate an editor to use. We're not one of those companies. We are not very big on mandating things like that. People should be free to choose whatever tools they feel are best for them. That being said, a lot of us are using various editors and AI tools built into them. Okay, so we expect jobs to be 2. And then, see, the arguments is not what we want here. What we need to do is load the opportunities that were used and then pluck their and then, because it's just not going to be in the arguments, so that's where it's getting on the wrong track. The argument is, actually, let's just check. So we're okay. I'm going to take that because I want to see what it looks like. Nil job. Let's print out the job. There's 2 jobs, but it's 2 nils. Reject job class or opportunity. Oh. Okay, so it was reject bang, which was modifying the original array. So so nothing was being returned there. Now we have that being returned. So then and then, so this is going to be a global ID. I'm just going to run it. I'm just verifying that we're really in the undefined method first for now. Oh. That's also nil. Did I mess something up? I thought I... This is... some weird stuff going on. I'm not sure. Okay. Let's do a select where it equals that. And then it's not printing anything out, and I'm not sure why, or what I'm missing. What am I missing? Okay, here are the jobs. And now they are only the jobs that we're looking for. The job enrich opportunity job. Okay, in that job class, we have job ID, provider job, queue name, priority, then arguments. I could have sworn that was args. Okay. No implicit string. Oh. So you notice that the inspect, something weird is going on. Because I'm no longer printing out jobs : it doesn't even appear in this file. And yet when I do a git diff, it's still there. Did I not save? You see how the Ruby LSP formatter keeps on popping up and going really slowly? Wonder what is happening. But my changes are not. There we go. So the formatter was stalled. So, and I format on every save. So my changes weren't actually taking effect. Okay, we are almost to the point where we have this fix. So I'm going to keep on. I appreciate everyone who's watching, and I keep on the stream so we can actually get this resolved today and have fixed all the flaky specs that we were going for. Okay, so the arguments, it's arguments dot first, and then that is a hash, and then it is yeah, Robert. Oh, that's an interesting idea. See, it just did it again. Where so we now have our two queued opportunities. And we're going to say Freshworks account ID expect. So we'll create a similar problem if we use match array here. So we'll say contain exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it's going to be strings. We can just fix that by doing 2i. Cool. We have this passing spec. So we're able to simplify. We're no longer need to check the account there. And we delete this because that's what we replaced. I'm just going to reformat this to wrap some long lines. So we're getting our jobs. There might be an even better way to write this, but this should still pass. I messed it up. Let's see if this passes. What did I mess up? Oh, you know, my editor's not saving. I bet it was again. Wow. see. Boy, that's really frustrating. I'm going to need to restart Copilot. Or restart. You can see it even says here that it's not saved. And no matter what I hit, hey, that looks correct to me now. Expected. Okay. Well, if my editor is not saving, it's gonna be a problem. Let me close this. It didn't even. So now it's failing, but because the editor wasn't saving, I actually don't know at what point it was passing. So that's unfortunate, and I don't know what. Boy, we're okay. Let's take a look at what's actually going on here. Let's print out jobs again. Jobs is empty. Okay. At one point, I changed this. Okay. Let's print out all the enqueued jobs. Oh, I see what the problem is. When I deleted the other expectations, I deleted actually running the job right here. There. So now we've restored actually running the job. We can do that line wrapping that I wanted to do. I think there's a. Oh. Cool. What's the suggestion here? Use filter map instead of select map. So the syntax for filter map, I need to look it up. Returns an array containing truthy elements returned by the block. I don't follow that, unfortunately. So let's just do. I think with flaky specs, it's important. We spend a lot of time. This is obviously not a real world scenario. I'm on a stream trying to do things live, but I also think it's important not to spend too much time on the flaky specs. But so I tried to do something to condense it down. It didn't really work. I'm just going to call this done. Now it's good enough. And we've resolved the root issue of the flaky spec. Let's force ourselves to write a good. Oh, actually, Robert had a suggestion. How well would Cursor Copilot do if you just commit the work we just did? So, because he wants to see it write a commit message. So let's give that a try. Writing a commit message that describes the problem and the fix. I don't know that we need to be so explicit as that. Fix. Enrichment schedule job to only queue jobs for valid opportunities. Problem. The test was not filtering out opportunities missing required fields, domain, or those enriched too recently. That is incorrect. The spec now creates a variety of opportunities. I think it lost the context of that. So that did not work, but it was worth the shot. Okay. Fix flaky. So what was happening was, these variables are no longer needed because we're not using them anywhere. So what was happening was the job only enriches one opportunity for each Freshworks account ID. So sometimes the one we didn't expect with that ID was the one being enriched. This fixes the flakiness by ensuring that, or by checking the Freshworks account IDs we expected to be enriched were the ones we expected to be enriched. Okay, I'm going to create a pull request, fill that in. Thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate everyone watching. Hopefully this was helpful for you, both in terms of seeing where we might be able to use AI agents to help us identify and fix the causes of flaky specs, but also just in terms of fixing strategies for fixing flaky specs to begin with, and how to approach them. Once again, At Thoughtbot, we work with clients of all different sizes to make new applications or to improve existing ones, including, hey, you got a bunch of flaky specs, you want our help fixing them. We're here. Visit us at thoughtbot.com to get in touch. Thanks so much for watching. We have another set of streams on the business side of AI tomorrow morning, UTC time. And you can tune in with Verdia for that. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you next week.